My own daughter whispered to her husband, "Dad won't last long, then the house is ours." She didn't know I was standing right behind the door, and she didn't know what I was about to do. By the next morning, one single phone call changed her life forever. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments below, because you won't believe how this story unfolds. I raised my daughter Emily in the very house she now treated like a prize, waiting to be claimed. That house wasn't just wood and bricks. It was a piece of my soul. I built it myself when my wife, God rest her soul, was still alive. Every nail hammered, every wall painted, was a memory we shared. My wife would hum her favorite tune while I worked, and Emily, just a little girl back then, would toddle behind her, holding a paintbrush too big for her tiny hand. We built more than walls. We built a life inside those rooms. Birthdays with balloons taped to the dining chairs. Christmas mornings where Emily would run down the staircase in her pajamas, squealing about the presents under the tree. Even the kitchen table bore scars from all those nights we played board games. Scratches from her restless hands when she was losing, and dents from where I once slammed my fist in triumph. For years I believed Emily and I had something unshakable. After her mother passed, I thought grief would draw us closer. She was just a teenager then, and I promised myself I would play both roles, father and mother, so she'd never feel alone. I thought I succeeded. I thought love was enough. But life changes people. When Emily married Ryan, I welcomed him as my own. At first he was polite, respectful even, but over time his smile sharpened into something else. Ambition, greed. He started eyeing my house like it was his birthright. And Emily, my sweet Emily, began echoing his tone. The betrayal struck like a knife the night I overheard them in the living room. I was walking down the hallway, heading for the kitchen to grab a glass of water. The light from the living room spilled across the floor, and I heard Ryan's voice, low but dripping with certainty. "Just be patient, Emily. Your dad's old. He won't last forever. Then the house is ours." And my daughter, my flesh and blood, leaned closer and whispered, almost laughing, "I know. We just have to wait a little longer. Then everything he worked for will finally be ours." I froze. The words burned hotter than fire. My chest tightened, not from age, but from heartbreak. I gripped the wall, steadying myself as the room spun. She wasn't talking about a stranger. She wasn't talking about some distant relative. She was talking about me, her father. That night, I lay awake in my bed, staring at the ceiling. My mind wasn't filled with sleep, but with memories. Her first bike ride, when she fell and scraped her knee. I'd carried her inside, kissed her tears away, and promised her she'd be safe with me. The night she got accepted to college, I had cried like a fool, bursting with pride. And now, she was planning to inherit my house like I was already in the ground. But here's what they didn't know. I wasn't weak, I wasn't naive, and I wasn't going to let my daughter and her greedy husband bury me before my time. So while they slept soundly in their room, I was awake, sketching the outlines of a plan in my mind. A plan that would turn their greed into their downfall. A plan that began with just one phone call. By morning, the sun crept through my curtains, painting the walls gold. I picked up my phone, my hands steady, my voice calm. I dialed a number I hadn't called in years. When the other end picked up, a deep voice said, "Hello? This is Thomas from the firm. How can I help you?" I smiled for the first time in days. "Thomas, it's me. I think it's time we move forward with the plan." "What plan? What could one phone call do to turn their lives upside down?" "You'll see." Thomas wasn't just any lawyer. He was my oldest friend, the man who had helped me draft my will years ago after my wife passed. At that time, I had written everything in Emily's name. She was all I had, and I wanted her to be secure, protected, cherished, even after I was gone. But listening to her whisper about my death like it was some expected blessing, I knew things had to change. Thomas had always told me, a will is a promise, but promises can be rewritten. And so on that morning, I decided to rewrite everything. "Thomas," I said into the phone, my voice steady but carrying the weight of betrayal. "I need to update my estate plans, effective immediately." There was a pause, then his voice lowered, sensing the gravity. "Are you sure, Robert? You once told me Emily was the reason you kept going." I closed my eyes. "She still is. But sometimes, Thomas, Love can't blind us to the truth. She doesn't love me. She loves what I own. That very afternoon, Thomas drove to the house. He arrived in his black sedan, parking a little down the street so Emily and Ryan wouldn't notice. We met in my study, the room where I still kept my wife's old rocking chair and the grandfather clock that ticked like a heartbeat. I laid it all out, the whispers I'd overheard, the plan they thought I didn't know. My voice broke at moments, but anger pushed me through. Thomas nodded, jotting notes, his face grim. "We can change everything," he said. "Your assets, the deed to the house, the accounts, you can protect them. And if they try anything after," he hesitated, searching my eyes, "we can make sure their greed destroys them." My heart pounded. This wasn't revenge, I told myself. This was justice. That evening, Emily knocked on my door, cheerful as if nothing had happened. "Dad, want to have dinner together?" Ryan grilled some steaks. I looked at her and almost believed the act. Almost. But behind her smile, I now saw calculation. Every laugh, every sweet tone. Was it all just a mask, waiting for me to fade so she could claim her prize? I ate quietly, nodding at her stories, pretending not to notice Ryan's eyes flicking toward the deed drawer in my study. I smiled, but inside, the plan was already unfolding. The next morning, I met Thomas again. Paperwork was signed. Names were changed. Safeguards were put in place. By the time Emily and Ryan realized it, the house they thought would be theirs might already belong to someone else entirely. 3 days later, Emily burst into my study, her face pale, her phone clutched in her hand. "Dad, what did you do?" I leaned back in my chair. "What are you talking about?" She shoved the phone toward me. It was a notification, public record updates. The deed to the house, no longer listed under my name alone. Her voice shook with fury. "You put it in trust? With conditions?" Ryan stormed in behind her, his voice rising. "You can't do this. We've been living here, taking care of you, helping you." "Helping me," I interrupted, my voice calm but sharp. "Or waiting for me to die so you can collect your inheritance." Emily's mouth fell open. The color drained from her face. Because in that moment she realized something. I had heard every word she whispered. Her voice broke into a sob. "Dad, you don't understand. It's not what it sounded like." But I stood, my hand resting on the stack of legal documents that now controlled their future. "Oh, Emily, I understood perfectly." And with that, I handed her a sealed envelope. Ryan snatched it from me, tore it open, and when he read the first line, his face went white as chalk. "You can't be serious," he whispered. "What was written in that letter? And why did it leave them speechless, trembling in my study? You'll find out next." Ryan's hands shook as he read the letter aloud. His voice cracked, each word cutting through the silence like a blade. Effective immediately, the estate, including the family home, has been placed into an irrevocable trust. Beneficiaries are not to be my daughter, Emily, nor her husband, Ryan, but rather my granddaughter-to-be and charitable foundations. Emily gasped, clutching her chest as if the air had been stolen from her lungs. Her face went crimson, then pale, then back again, like a storm cloud fighting the sun. "What does this mean?" she shrieked, tears brimming in her eyes. "Dad, you're leaving me with nothing? Nothing?" I looked her dead in the eye, my voice calm, unshaken. "No, Emily. I'm leaving you with everything you already had. Your health, your husband, your future. But my house, my savings, those will never be the prize for betrayal." Ryan slammed the letter onto my desk, his voice shaking with fury. "You can't do this. Do you know how much we've done for you? The hours, the sacrifices? Emily is your only child. You owe her." I stood slowly, my shadow stretching across the room as the evening light slanted through the blinds. "Owe her? Tell me, Ryan. Was it Emily's voice I heard whispering about waiting for me to die? Or yours?" The silence that followed was suffocating. Emily's face crumpled, her lips trembling. She tried to speak, but no words came. Ryan, however, had no shame. He sneered. "So you overheard. Fine. You're old. You will die soon. And when you do, Emily deserves this house. Who else should get it? Some strangers." My jaw tightened. "Some strangers will treat it with more respect than my own flesh and blood did." What they didn't know yet was that the trust wasn't just about punishment. It was about preservation. My late wife had loved this house. She wanted it filled with laughter, not greed. She wanted it to be a legacy, not a battlefield. So I had made arrangements. The trust would one day provide scholarships for children who had nothing. It would fund shelters for families who had no roof of their own. And Emily, she would get a choice. Not money, not property, but a choice. I turned back to her, my voice softer now, almost a whisper. Emily, the trust can change, but only if you change. Her eyes widened. What do you mean? I looked at her, not at the greedy woman who whispered in the night, but at the little girl who once painted walls with me, who cried when her mother died, who once believed in kindness. You'll find out, but you'll have to earn it. That night, the house was filled with silence. Emily and Ryan avoided me, whispering angrily in the kitchen. I could hear the venom in Ryan's voice, the desperation in Emily's. This isn't over, Ryan hissed. We'll fight this in court. He won't win. But deep inside, I smiled, because they didn't know what else Thomas and I had prepared. The documents they'd seen were only the beginning. The real surprise was still sealed in another envelope, one they hadn't seen yet. The next morning, over breakfast, I placed that second envelope on the table between us. Emily's fork clattered onto her plate. Ryan's face went pale. What's this? She whispered. Your future, I said simply. And as she tore it open, her hands trembling, I leaned back in my chair. Because this time, the letter wasn't just about money. It was about truth. What truth did the second letter hold? And why would it make Emily break down in tears while Ryan's arrogance turned to rage? You'll see in the next part. Emily's hands trembled as she tore open the envelope. The paper shook in her grip, her eyes darting across the words. Then, slowly, her lips parted, and a strangled gasp escaped her throat. She dropped the letter onto the table. Ryan snatched it up, his eyes racing over the page. His face turned the color of ash, his confident smirk collapsing into something raw, almost fearful. What the hell is this? He spat, his voice low but unsteady. I folded my hands calmly. That, Ryan, is the proof of everything I already know. Emily's voice cracked, barely above a whisper. Dad, you had us investigated? The letter was a statement from my lawyer, Thomas. Attached were documents, bank records, transfers, debts, and even photographs. Ryan's gambling addiction, the loans he had taken out in Emily's name without her knowing, the secret meetings with another woman he thought no one knew about. Ryan shoved the papers back into the envelope, his jaw tight, his eyes avoiding Emily's. This is nonsense, fabricated. He's trying to poison you against me, Emily. But Emily was already trembling, tears streaming down her cheeks. Is it true? She whispered. Tell me it's not true. Ryan said nothing. His silence was the loudest confession of all. Emily turned to me, her face streaked with tears. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Why did you let me think? My heart ached, but my voice remained steady. Because, Emily, you wouldn't have listened. You were too blinded by him. You were willing to sell your soul and me for promises, he whispered in the dark. Ryan shot up from his chair, his fists clenched. You can't just ruin us like this. I rose too, taller than I had felt in years. I didn't ruin you, Ryan. You did that yourself. I just revealed the truth. The room fell into silence, broken only by Emily's sobs. She wasn't just crying for the betrayal she'd discovered, but for the person she had become. I looked at her and felt the war in my chest. She was still my daughter. Still the girl who once reached for my hand when crossing the street. And yet, she had plotted my death with the man who now sat exposed as a liar and a thief. Could I forgive her? Could I let her back in? Or was the trust, the cold legal document, the only way to protect my wife's memory, my house, and my soul? I placed a hand gently on the letter, pushing it toward Emily. You wanted the house? You wanted everything I worked for? Fine. Here's your chance. But it comes with conditions. Her red, swollen eyes lifted to mine. What conditions? Ryan leaned forward, desperate. Don't listen to him. We'll fight this in court. But Emily silenced him with a glare, waiting for me to continue. My voice was calm, deliberate. Waiting for me to continue. My voice was calm, deliberate. If you want to inherit, you must leave Ryan. Walk away from him, from the lies, from the greed. Prove to me that you are still the daughter your mother believed in. Only then will I change the trust in your favor." Emily's hands trembled as she clutched the letter, torn between love and survival. Ryan's face twisted with rage, veins bulging in his neck. "You can't make her choose," he shouted. But I just looked at Emily, waiting. And in that silence, I knew her answer would change everything, forever. Would she stay with Ryan, the man who promised her the world but left her drowning in lies? Or would she choose redemption and her father's forgiveness? That answer was still hanging in the air. The room was heavy with silence, the kind that made every tick of the grandfather clock sound like a hammer striking stone. Emily's chest rose and fell rapidly, her face blotched from crying. Ryan's hand hovered near her arm, but she pulled away, her eyes fixed on me. "Dad," her voice cracked, hoarse. "You're asking me to choose between my husband and my family, between my marriage and my soul." Ryan scoffed, his voice sharp, venomous. "Don't let him manipulate you. He's trying to control you, Emily. He'll dangle the money like a leash. But me," he grabbed her wrist. "With me, you're free. We don't need him." Emily stared at his hand, gripping her skin. For the first time I saw it, the flicker of doubt in her eyes, the recognition of chains disguised as love. She pulled her wrist free. "You lied to me, Ryan," she whispered. "You used me. You made me dream about a future built on lies." Ryan's face twisted. "Emily, don't." But she stood, tears falling as she faced me. "Dad, I choose you." The words sliced through Ryan like a blade. His face flushed crimson, veins standing out in his neck. He slammed his fist onto the table so hard the cups rattled. "You stupid girl! Do you think he'll actually give it to you? He's old, bitter, and playing games with you?" His voice rose into a shout. "You're throwing away everything for him." I stepped forward, standing between Ryan and my daughter. "Enough. Get out of my house." Ryan laughed bitterly, his eyes wild. "Your house? You think a few pieces of paper will stop me? I've been living here, eating here, sleeping here. This place is as much mine as it is yours." I leveled my gaze at him, my voice steady as stone. "No, Ryan. This house was built with love. And love is something you'll never understand. Get out." Ryan stormed toward the door, muttering curses but not before hurling one last venomous threat over his shoulder. "This isn't over, old man. You'll regret this. I'll see you in court if I have to. And Emily," he sneered, his words dripping with spite, "you'll come crawling back. You'll see what a fool you've been." The door slammed so hard the windows rattled. Emily collapsed into a chair, sobbing, her head in her hands. I stood there, my chest heavy, my heart aching, not with anger, but with sorrow. Because even though she chose me, I knew this was not the end. I knelt beside her, placing a trembling hand on her shoulder. "Emily, the trust still stands. Nothing will change overnight, but now you have a chance to rebuild, to prove yourself, to your mother's memory, to me, and most of all to yourself." Her tear-streaked face lifted, her eyes wide with something I hadn't seen in years. Humility. Do you really think I can, Dad?" I nodded. "I know you can, but it won't be easy. Ryan will fight. He'll try to pull you back into his world. You'll need to be stronger than you've ever been." Emily swallowed hard, her hands clenching into fists as if summoning courage. "Then I'll fight. For you, for Mom, for me." But as she spoke those words, my phone buzzed on the table. I picked it up, frowning. "An unknown number," I answered, and a chilling voice crackled on the other end. "This is just the beginning. You don't know who you're messing with." I froze, my blood running cold. Ryan's voice. The line went dead. The phone went silent in my hand. But Ryan's words echoed like a storm rolling through my chest. "This is just the beginning. You don't know who you're messing with." I stared at the screen, the call already gone, and a chill rippled through me. Ryan wasn't bluffing. His pride had been wounded, his mask ripped away. Men like him didn't retreat, they retaliated. Emily looked up, her face pale, her eyes searching mine. "Was that him?" I nodded slowly, setting the phone down. "He won't let this go." She covered her mouth, trembling. "Dad, what if he tries to hurt you?" I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "Then he'll learn something, Emily. I may be old, but I am not helpless. I had lived long enough to know the measure of men like Ryan. They believed kindness was weakness, that age meant fragility. But they forgot something. Men who have built, who have sacrificed, who have endured loss. Those men are stronger than steel. I thought of Emily's mother, her voice soft in my memory. Protect her, Robert. Even from herself, if you have to. And I swore then and there, I would protect our legacy. The next evening, a knock rattled the front door. Emily tensed, clutching my arm. I opened it cautiously, half expecting Ryan. Instead, a man in a suit stood there, holding a folder. "Mr. Walker?" he asked. "Yes." He handed me the papers. "You've been served." Emily gasped. Her hands shook as she opened the folder. Lawsuit documents. Ryan was challenging the trust in court, claiming undue influence, mental incapacity, manipulation. "He's trying to paint me as incompetent," I muttered, my jaw tightening. "As if I don't know what I'm doing." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "Dad, this is my fault. I let him into our lives. I believed him." I touched her shoulder gently. "No, Emily. This is his doing, and now he'll face the consequences." What Ryan didn't know was that Thomas and I had prepared for this exact moment. The trust documents were ironclad. Every medical evaluation confirmed I was of sound mind. And we had something Ryan couldn't fight. Proof of his financial fraud, his gambling, his manipulation. But there was more. Something Ryan didn't even suspect. Inside a locked drawer in my study lay a second set of documents, a safety net that could ruin Ryan forever if he dared to push too far. That night I found Emily sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the papers. Her face was swollen from crying, but her eyes had hardened with resolve. "Dad," she whispered, "I want to testify. I want to stand in that courtroom and tell the truth about him. Everything. What he said, what he did, what he made me believe." I studied her carefully. For the first time in years, I didn't see the greedy woman who whispered about waiting for me to die. I saw my daughter, the little girl who once clung to my hand, who trusted me to keep her safe. "You'll be exposing yourself too," I warned. "They'll hear how you plan to take everything from me." Her jaw trembled, but she nodded. "Then let them hear it. If that's the price of redemption, I'll pay it." I reached across the table, taking her hand. For the first time in years, we were united, not by inheritance, but by truth. But as I held her hand, headlights swept across the window. A car pulled into the driveway. Emily's face drained of color. "Dad, it's him." The engine cut off. A car door slammed. Heavy footsteps crunched on the gravel. Ryan hadn't come to talk. He had come to fight. The footsteps grew louder, deliberate, each one crunching against the gravel like a drumbeat of war. Emily clutched my arm, her voice barely a whisper. "Dad, what if he does something?" I squeezed her hand gently. "Then we face him together." The knock came hard, angry, rattling the door against its hinges. Without waiting for an answer, Ryan shoved it open and stormed inside. His eyes were bloodshot, his jaw clenched tight, his entire body trembling with rage. "You think you can humiliate me?" he spat, pointing a shaking finger at me. "You think you can turn my wife against me and make me look like a fool?" I stood tall, keeping my voice calm. "You don't need my help to look like a fool, Ryan. You've done that all on your own." Ryan's face twisted. He lunged forward, slamming his hands onto the table, knocking the lawsuit papers to the floor. Emily gasped, stepping back. But I didn't move. "You ruined everything," he roared. "The house, the money, the future we planned. You stole it from us." I leaned forward, meeting his furious gaze. "No, Ryan. You tried to steal it from me, and now you've lost it all." Emily's voice broke through the tension, shaky but firm. "Ryan, stop. I'm done. I'm not your pawn anymore. I'm not your puppet. I'm done with the lies." For the first time, Ryan's rage flickered into something else. Panic. "Emily, you don't mean that. You're just scared. He's twisting you against me." But Emily shook her head, tears streaming. "No, Ryan. You twisted me. Dad's giving me a chance to make things right, and I'm taking it." Ryan staggered back, as if her words had physically struck him. His eyes darted to me, then to Emily, then to the door. "You'll regret this," he hissed. "Both of you. You think a few legal papers and some crocodile tears will stop me? I'll drag this through the courts. I'll ruin you both before I let you win." I straightened, my voice cold as iron. Then ruin yourself in the process. Because I've already given the courts everything they need. Your debts, your fraud, your affairs. By the time this is over, you'll be lucky to walk away with your name intact. Ryan froze. For a moment, just a moment, the mask slipped. Fear. Pure, undeniable fear. His lips curled into a bitter smile. You may think you've won, old man. But wars aren't won in courtrooms. Wars are won when your enemies sleep. Emily gasped, clutching my hand. Dad, he's threatening you. I stared at him, unblinking. I've lived long enough to know one thing, Ryan. Evil men burn themselves out. You don't need me to destroy you. You'll do it yourself. Ryan's nostrils flared. He shoved the door open, storming out into the night. The engine of his car roared to life, tires screeching against the pavement as he sped away into the darkness. The silence that followed was deafening. Emily's shoulders sagged as she collapsed into a chair, sobbing. But me, I stood at the window, staring at the fading taillights, knowing this wasn't the end, because men like Ryan don't walk away quietly. And deep down I knew his next move wouldn't be in court. It would be something far more dangerous. The house was quiet after Ryan sped away, but it wasn't peace. It was the heavy, suffocating calm that comes before a storm. Emily sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a cold cup of tea, staring into it like it might hold the answers. Dad, she whispered, her voice shaky, he won't stop. You know that, don't you? I nodded slowly, my eyes fixed on the window. Yes, but knowing he won't stop is what gives us the upper hand, because now we're prepared. Emily bit her lip, her eyes shimmering with fear. What if he tries to hurt you? I placed my hand over hers, steadying her trembling fingers. Then he'll learn that I'm not as fragile as he thinks, and neither are you. As the night dragged on, I found myself staring at the photographs on the wall. Emily as a little girl, riding her first bike, holding her mother's hand, smiling with a gap-toothed grin. My wife's laughter echoed faintly in my memory. Protect her, Robert. No matter what. I had failed once by letting Ryan worm his way into her life. I wasn't going to fail again. 2 days later, the first shot came, not from a gun but from Ryan's cunning. I got a call from Thomas. His voice was grave. Robert, brace yourself. Ryan has frozen your accounts with a temporary injunction. He's trying to claim you're financially irresponsible, that you need a guardian. He's painting you as senile. My jaw clenched. Emily, sitting across from me, paled. He's trying to make you look incompetent, so he can control everything legally. Exactly, Thomas replied. But don't worry, we're ready for this. Still, it's going to get ugly. I hung up, my blood boiling. Ryan wasn't just after my money now. He wanted to erase my dignity. That night, I unlocked the drawer in my study and pulled out the second set of documents, the safety net. Ryan didn't know existed. Evidence of his gambling debts, testimonies from people he'd conned, even photographs of him meeting with a woman who wasn't Emily. Emily's hands trembled as she looked at the pile. Dad, this will destroy him. I nodded grimly. Yes, but sometimes, Emily, destruction is the only way to protect what's worth saving. But Ryan wasn't waiting for the courtroom. The following night, just as Emily and I were finishing dinner, a crash shattered the silence. The sound of breaking glass echoed through the house. Emily screamed, and I leapt to my feet. From the corner of my eye, I saw a brick lying on the living room floor, shards of glass sparkling around it. Attached to the brick was a note, scribbled in angry handwriting. This house will be mine, one way or another. Emily's face went pale. Dad, he's here. I moved to the window, heart pounding, scanning the darkness outside. The night was still, too still. But I knew Ryan was watching. I pulled Emily close, whispering firmly into her ear. Go upstairs. Lock the door. Don't come out until I tell you. Her voice trembled. What about you? I straightened, my fists tightening, my eyes fixed on the darkness outside. I've protected this house all my life, and I'm not about to stop now. Because if Ryan wanted a war, then tonight he was going to get one. The night pressed in heavy and silent, broken only by Emily's muffled sobs upstairs. I stood in the darkened living room, my eyes scanning the broken window. The brick lay at my feet like a declaration of war. Then came the sound I had been waiting for, the creak of the back door. Slow, deliberate. Ryan was inside. Old man, his voice slithered through the silence, taunting, almost playful. You think you can humiliate me? You think you can take my future away from me? I'm here to take what's mine. I stepped forward into the dim light, my voice steady. This house was never yours, Ryan, and it never will be. Ryan emerged from the shadows, his eyes wild, his chest heaving. He was holding something, a crowbar, glinting faintly under the hallway light. You've got two choices, he growled. Sign it over to me, or I'll make sure you don't live long enough to stop me. My heart thudded, but I didn't flinch. I built this house with my own two hands. If you want it, Ryan, you'll have to go through me. For a moment, we stood in silence. Two men, one old and weary, the other young and desperate. But desperation makes men reckless. He lunged. The crowbar swung wide. I ducked, the wind of the blow grazing past my ear. Adrenaline surged through me, sharper than any fear. I grabbed the nearest object, a heavy oak cane that had belonged to my father, and blocked his next strike. The sound of metal clashing against wood rang through the house. Emily screamed from upstairs, her voice raw with terror. "Dad, stay upstairs," I shouted back, my arms straining against Ryan's strength. He sneered, spittle flying. "You're weak, you can't fight me forever." But as I pushed back, forcing him to stumble, I realized something. He was wrong. Weakness wasn't in my body. Weakness was in his soul. Ryan raised the crowbar again, his eyes blazing, when suddenly a voice rang out from behind him. "Stop!" Emily stood at the top of the stairs, her face pale but determined, clutching her phone in her hands. "The police are on their way, Ryan. One more move, and they'll catch you red-handed." Ryan froze, his chest heaving. His eyes darted between me, Emily, and the front door. "You'd betray me too," he spat at her, his voice trembling with rage. After everything? Tears streaked down her cheeks, but her voice was steady. "No, Ryan, you betrayed me." The sound of sirens cut through the night, faint at first but growing louder, closer. Ryan's face twisted in fury, then panic. He dropped the crowbar with a clatter. His eyes met mine one last time, full of hatred, but also fear. Without another word, he bolted through the broken window and disappeared into the night. Moments later, flashing red and blue lights filled the driveway. Officers swarmed the property, and Emily collapsed into my arms, sobbing. "It's over, Dad. It's finally over." I held her tight, my own chest trembling. "No, Emily, it's just beginning. The courts will finish what he started tonight, and this time, we'll win." The officers took our statements, the crowbar bagged as evidence, the brick with Ryan's note carefully photographed. But as the police car carrying Ryan sped off into the night, Emily clutched my hand and whispered, "Dad, what if he comes back? What if he finds another way?" I looked at her, my eyes weary but resolute. "Then we'll be ready, because as long as we stand together, he can't take what truly matters." But little did she know, there was still one final surprise left. A final decision in the courtroom that would decide everything, forever. Weeks later, the polished wood of the courtroom echoed with whispers as people filled the benches. Ryan sat at the defendant's table, his once proud posture reduced to slouching arrogance, his suit wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot. Emily sat beside me, her hand clenched in mine. For the first time in years, she wasn't my enemy. She was my daughter again. The judge entered, and the room silenced. Documents were laid out. Ryan's debts, his fraud, his threats. Witnesses testified. Neighbors who heard his shouting. The bank officers who confirmed his shady transfers. Even the officer who retrieved the brick and crowbar. But the moment that sealed it all came when Emily rose to speak. Her voice trembled at first, but she steadied herself, standing tall. "Your Honor," she began, her eyes brimming with tears. "I was blinded. I thought Ryan loved me. I thought he loved my father. But I see now, he loved nothing but greed. He whispered poison into my ears, until I almost believed my own father's death was a blessing." Gasps rippled through the room, but Emily pressed on. "My father gave me everything, a home, love, and a chance to be better. I almost threw it all away. I can't undo the past, but I can stand here today and tell the truth. Ryan doesn't deserve this house. He doesn't deserve my father's legacy. He doesn't deserve me." Her voice cracked on that last word, but in it was strength. Strength I hadn't seen in years. I felt tears prick my eyes. My wife would have been proud. The judge's gavel came down hard. The court finds in favor of Mr. Walker. The trust stands. All assets remain protected. Furthermore, Ryan Gallagher is hereby restrained from contacting either Mr. Walker or his daughter. His actions have consequences, and this court will ensure justice is served. Ryan shot up, his face red, his voice hoarse with fury. "You can't do this. He's an old fool. She's nothing without me." The bailiffs restrained him, dragging him out as he kicked and screamed. His voice echoed down the hallway until it disappeared completely, and just like that, it was over. The news spread quickly. Ryan's debt swallowed him. The woman he thought he could hide in the shadows abandoned him. His career crumbled. His reputation burned to ashes. For a man who thought he could control everything, he was left with nothing. Weeks later, Emily and I sat on the porch of the house, the evening sun casting long shadows across the yard. She leaned her head on my shoulder, like she hadn't done since she was a child. "Dad," she whispered, "thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave up on you." I wrapped my arm around her, my voice soft. "You're my daughter. That means I'll always fight for you. But Emily, promise me one thing. Promise me you'll fight for yourself too." She nodded, her eyes shimmering. "I will." The house around us felt different that night. No longer just walls and a roof. It was whole again, a place of love, rebuilt from ashes. As the stars blinked awake in the night sky, I realized something. Wealth can build houses, but love builds homes. And homes only survive when built on truth, not greed. If you've made it this far, remember this. Family isn't about inheritance, it's about integrity. Don't forget to subscribe, share this story, and tell me in the comments, what would you have done if you overheard your own child plotting against you?